The period between 1848 and the outbreak of World War I in 1914 was a time of profound transformation for the Netherlands. This era witnessed the birth of modern Dutch democracy, the rapid rise of industrialization, and the expansion of the Dutch Empire in Southeast Asia. It was a time of immense social and economic change that touched the lives of every citizen, from the wealthy industrialists of Amsterdam to the farmers in the Dutch countryside. This period saw the emergence of new political ideologies, the rise of labor unions, and a surge in social activism, all contributing to the shaping of a new Dutch society. The Industrial Revolution, which had begun to sweep across Europe in the late 18th century, finally reached the Netherlands in full force during this period. Factories sprang up in cities like Rotterdam and Eindhoven, drawing people from rural areas and leading to rapid urbanization. The clatter of machinery and the billowing smoke from factory chimneys became symbols of this new age. This period wasn't just about factories and machines. It was also an era of immense intellectual and cultural ferment. Dutch artists, writers, and thinkers grappled with the changes sweeping their society, producing works that reflected both the anxieties and the aspirations of this transformative age. This era saw the rise of renowned Dutch painters like Vincent van Gogh and Piet Mondrian, whose groundbreaking works would later influence generations of artists worldwide. Their paintings, often depicting the lives of ordinary people and the changing landscapes of the Netherlands, offered a unique window into this period of rapid transformation. In this historical odyssey, we will delve into this pivotal period in Dutch history, exploring the key events and personalities that shaped the nation's destiny. From the halls of Parliament to the bustling factory floors, we will witness the birth pangs of a modern nation. Our journey will take us through bustling cities and sleepy villages, through times of peace and periods of social unrest. We will explore the complex legacy of Dutch colonialism in the East Indies, examining both the economic benefits and the ethical dilemmas it posed. Our exploration of this period will not shy away from the darker chapters of Dutch history, including the exploitation of colonial resources and the struggles faced by marginalized communities within the Netherlands. We will examine the Dutch government's efforts to address social inequality, including the introduction of social welfare programs and labor reforms. This is a story of progress and setbacks, of triumphs and challenges, a story that continues to shape the identity of the Netherlands today. The year 1848 was a time of unprecedented upheaval across Europe, as revolutions erupted from Paris to Vienna, demanding political and social change. The Netherlands, though often perceived as a beacon of stability, was not immune to this wave of unrest. The Dutch Revolution, sparked by similar grievances of limited representation and economic hardship, unfolded with less violence than its European counterparts, but nevertheless proved to be a pivotal moment in Dutch history. The existing constitution, considered outdated and restrictive, became a focal point of discontent. Calls for reform, echoing across the canals of Amsterdam and the squares of The Hague, grew louder, demanding a more representative government that reflected the will of the people. King William II, recognizing the gravity of the situation and fearing a more radical uprising, made a shrewd political maneuver. He agreed to revise the constitution, ushering in a new era of constitutional monarchy. This new constitution, drafted by the liberal politician Johan Rudolf Thorbecke, enshrined key democratic principles, including ministerial responsibility and the separation of powers. This marked a significant shift in the Dutch political landscape. The king, once wielding significant authority, now saw his powers curtailed, with the elected parliament assuming a more prominent role in governing the nation. The 1848 revolution, though bloodless, had a profound and lasting impact on the Netherlands. It laid the foundation for the modern Dutch democracy, a system that would continue to evolve and adapt in the decades to come, ensuring greater political participation and representation for its citizens. Political parties emerged, previously absent in Dutch politics. The new constitution emphasized parliamentary representation. Nascent parties rallied support and sought parliamentary seats. Liberals championed free trade and individual liberties. Conservatives advocated traditional values and a strong monarchy. The rise of political parties injected dynamism into Dutch politics. The 1848 Constitution limited voting rights to a small percentage of the male population based on property ownership and wealth. This excluded working-class men from the political process. The struggle for universal male suffrage defined Dutch politics in the late 19th century. Universal male suffrage was achieved in the Netherlands in 1917. This marked a significant victory for a more equitable political system. Universal male suffrage was not the end of the journey for Dutch democracy. The fight for women's suffrage continued, leading to full voting rights for women in 1919. The Netherlands underwent a profound economic transformation driven by the Industrial Revolution. Factories and mills sprang up, shifting from an agrarian economy to an industrialized society. Rapid urbanization strained housing and sanitation in cities like Amsterdam and Rotterdam. The traditional agrarian economy gradually gave way to a more industrialized society. Factories and mills sprang up across the country, particularly in urban centers. These burgeoning industries produced a wide range of goods, from textiles and ships to processed foods and machinery. The bustling port of Rotterdam saw a surge in shipping traffic. This rapid industrialization brought about significant social and economic changes. The demand for labor led to a mass migration of people from rural areas to urban centers. This shift had a huge impact on Dutch society, creating new opportunities and challenges. While the Industrial Revolution spurred economic growth but exposed stark inequalities, the working class, subjected to long hours and low wages, began to organize. Inspired by socialist ideas, they formed trade unions for better conditions. These unions played a crucial role in improving workers' lives. They demanded an end to child labor and safer working conditions. The Industrial Revolution triggered a mass migration to urban centers, transforming cities like Amsterdam and Rotterdam into industrial hubs. Rapid urbanization led to housing shortages, with working-class families crammed into overcrowded tenements. These slums became breeding grounds for disease and social unrest. The strain on infrastructure resulted in inadequate sanitation and a rise in crime. The government eventually introduced building codes and invested in public health. Despite challenges, urban growth also created opportunities, attracting entrepreneurs and artists. The late 19th century saw Dutch elites recognizing the social problems from rapid industrialization. Reform movements emerged, driven by social conscience and religious conviction. Samuel van Houten's Child Labor Act of 1874 banned children under 12 from factory work. Public health insurance programs were established, improving health outcomes. Incremental social reforms marked a shift in government responsibility. These changes paved the way for a comprehensive welfare state in the 20th century. This century was pivotal for the Dutch East Indies, transitioning to direct Dutch government control. The cultivation system forced Indonesian farmers to grow cash crops, causing widespread hardship. The Dutch established a hierarchical administrative system, entrenching racial and social divisions. Economic exploitation led to resentment among the Indonesian population. The Dutch sought to maximize profits, exploiting natural resources and cheap labor. This period marked significant expansion and consolidation of Dutch colonial power. The early 20th century brought scrutiny of colonial practices with growing criticism of Dutch exploitation. A humanitarian movement emerged, calling for ethical colonial governance. Writers and politicians highlighted the contrast between Dutch ideals and colonial realities. Calls for reforms included ending forced labor and improving education and healthcare. The Dutch government grappled with balancing economic interests and moral obligations. This period exposed the ethical dilemma at the heart of colonialism. The ethical policy of 1901 aimed to improve Indonesian lives through education and healthcare. Critics argued it was paternalistic and limited in scope. Some improvements were made, but fundamental power imbalances remained. The policy encouraged Indonesian-owned businesses, though they faced challenges. The ethical policy marked a shift in Dutch colonial thinking. It acknowledged responsibility for colonial subjects, but failed to address root grievances. The Dutch presence in the East Indies led to cultural exchange and mutual influence. Dutch scholars documented Indonesian biodiversity and customs, influencing Dutch art and literature. Indonesian artifacts were displayed in Dutch museums, often stripped of context. The Dutch language left a legacy of loanwords in Indonesian languages. A hybrid culture emerged, blending Indonesian and European elements. Understanding this cultural interplay is essential for comprehending colonialism's legacy. The late 19th and early 20th centuries marked the second golden age in the Netherlands. Economic boom was driven by colonial trade, industry growth, and international commerce. The Dutch East Indies provided raw materials for Dutch industries. The Netherlands became a hub for international commerce, enriching merchants and industrialists. Rapid industrial growth led to social problems like income inequality and labor unrest. The economic boom laid the foundation for a more equitable society. The Second Golden Age's prosperity fueled a creative flourishing in the Netherlands. Amsterdam Impressionism captured modern urban life with vibrant paintings. Vincent van Gogh's innovative art later revolutionized the art world. Authors like Louis Couperus explored social change and colonialism's impact. Architects like Hendrik Berlage embraced functionalism, paving the way for modern architecture. This period marked a significant cultural and artistic transformation. Economic prosperity exposed social inequalities, leading to a movement for social justice. Reformers like Ferdinand de Melle Nieuwenhuis advocated for workers' rights and social welfare. Landmark reforms included the Accident Insurance Act and Old Age Pensions Act. These reforms marked a shift in government responsibility for social issues. The Dutch government gradually expanded social services like housing, healthcare, and education. The rise of the welfare state was driven by social movements and pragmatic policymaking. The Netherlands, with its long tradition of intellectual inquiry and scientific exploration, made significant contributions during the Second Golden Age. Dutch scientists and inventors made groundbreaking discoveries in various fields, earning international recognition. Jacobus Henricus van 't Hoff won the first Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1901 for his work on chemical kinetics and osmotic pressure. Heike Kamerlingh-Onnes liquefied helium in 1908, opening new frontiers in low-temperature physics. The Netherlands made significant strides in engineering and infrastructure. The Amsterdam-Rhine Canal, completed in 1892, enhanced the inland waterway network. The Second Golden Age witnessed remarkable scientific and technological innovation in the Netherlands. As the 19th century drew to a close and the 20th century dawned, the Netherlands found itself navigating an increasingly complex and volatile geopolitical landscape. Europe, riven by nationalist tensions, imperial rivalries, and a burgeoning arms race, stood on the brink of a cataclysmic conflict. The Netherlands, a small nation with a long tradition of neutrality, faced the daunting challenge of maintaining its independence and security in a world rapidly descending into chaos. The Dutch government, acutely aware of the precarious balance of power in Europe, sought to steer a course of strict neutrality, avoiding entanglements in the intricate web of alliances that were drawing the great powers closer to war. The Netherlands, with its history of peaceful trade and diplomacy, hoped to remain a haven of peace and stability amidst the gathering storm. However, maintaining neutrality proved to be a daunting task. The Netherlands, situated at the heart of Europe, bordered by powerful neighbors with competing interests, faced constant pressure to choose sides. Germany, its eastern neighbor, undergoing rapid industrialization and militarization under Kaiser Wilhelm II, posed a significant military threat. Great Britain, across the North Sea, a global naval power with whom the Netherlands had long-standing economic ties, viewed Germany's growing might with suspicion. The Netherlands, caught between these rival powers, found its neutrality constantly tested. The Dutch government, determined to uphold its neutral stance, sought to maintain cordial relations with all sides, engaging in skillful diplomacy and avoiding any actions that could be perceived as favoring one power over another. While the Dutch government sought to steer a course of strict neutrality, the issue of war and peace deeply divided Dutch society. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 ignited a fierce debate within the Netherlands, pitting those who believed in upholding neutrality at all costs against those who felt compelled to take sides in the conflict. The pro-neutrality camp, consisting of many liberals, socialists, and pacifists, argued that the Netherlands, as a small nation, had nothing to gain and everything to lose by getting involved in a major European war. They emphasized the economic and social costs of war and urged the government to maintain its neutral stance, hoping to weather the storm and emerge from the conflict unscathed. On the other hand, the pro-Allied camp, comprising some conservatives, nationalists, and intellectuals, argued that the Netherlands had a moral obligation to support the Allied cause, which they viewed as a fight for democracy and freedom against German aggression. They pointed to the atrocities committed by the German army in Belgium and France as evidence of the threat posed by German militarism and urged the Dutch government to abandon its neutrality and join the Allied war effort. The neutrality debate exposed deep divisions within Dutch society, reflecting differing views on national identity, internationalism, and the role of the Netherlands in world affairs. The government, caught in the crossfire of this debate, faced the difficult task of maintaining national unity while navigating the treacherous waters of neutrality. The war, even though fought on foreign soil, cast a long shadow over the Netherlands, testing its resolve and forcing it to confront the complexities of international relations in a world consumed by conflict. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 shattered the illusion of peace, forcing neutral nations like the Netherlands to confront potential conflict. The Dutch government, committed to neutrality, recognized the need to strengthen its defenses. Alarmed by the outbreak of war, the Dutch embarked on a crash program of military modernization. Military spending increased, conscription was introduced, and new weapons were purchased. The Dutch Navy also modernized, acquiring new warships and submarines. Despite efforts, the Dutch relied on diplomacy and neutrality to avoid devastating war consequences. The war disrupted trade, toppled economies, and unleashed unprecedented suffering, profoundly impacting Dutch society. The Netherlands, reliant on imports and exports, found its economy squeezed by blockades and submarine warfare. The British blockade and German submarine warfare led to shortages of essential commodities. The war also led to a massive influx of Belgian refugees into the Netherlands. The Dutch people responded with compassion, providing food, shelter, and medical care. The Netherlands, despite its neutrality, could not escape the far-reaching consequences of the conflict. From the revolutionary fervor of 1848 to World War I in 1914, profound changes swept across the Netherlands. This era saw the birth of modern Dutch democracy, rapid industrialization, and cultural flourishing. The Netherlands of 1914 was vastly different from 1848. The old agrarian society had evolved into a modern, complex one. The legacy of this transformative era continues to resonate in the Netherlands of today. The democratic principles enshrined in the 1848 Constitution remain the cornerstone of Dutch governance. The Netherlands values consensus building, social justice, and international cooperation. The Netherlands of today draws strength from the experiences and lessons of this transformative period. The period from 1848 to 1914 offers valuable lessons for the Netherlands today. The Netherlands faces new challenges, from economic uncertainty to climate change. Democratic values and international cooperation remain crucial. With pragmatism and innovation, the Netherlands is well positioned to face these challenges.